Blessings and welcome to Eartheart Radio. Finally beginning to awaken from the illusion of separateness and broadcasting live from the KSKQ studios in beautiful Ashland, Oregon. Here's your host, Derek Moody.
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. Welcome to the Eartheart Radio Show, and this is show number 37. I hope and wish everyone a peaceful state of mind, and I hope for minimal suffering for all in any way. It's definitely a trying time, my friends, personally, as well as for the whole world. It's a great time to connect with the breath. And simple 3-part breathing exercises are a tool that anyone can utilize. I can be driving down the road and use my 3-part breathing and bring myself right back to no anxiety and awareness within seconds. You can be eating lunch and do 3-part breathing. You don't have to really make time. It just takes a few seconds, minutes. For the next hour, we can take a collective breath, relax, and I'll play some relaxing music, and I'll share some positive news stories, and we'll learn about one of the original Siddhas of South India, Bogar, one of the original saints as far as recorded in history. And I want to thank my friend Red in New York State for always bringing relevant and useful ideas to the table. She named this show. She suggested terrific music for the show. And today I am happy to be playing a recorded piece for you that Red brought to my attention a few weeks back. I'm asking you to sit back, block out the distractions, put your phone down, and really listen to this recording. Here at the Eartheart Show, we agree with the principles of ATWA: air, trees, water, animals. Today, the focus is on animals. This recording is set in the Australian outback. I made some notes. Death of a Wombat by Ivan Smith. This 1959 prize-winning program tells the story of a wombat's attempt to escape an approaching brush fire. The music, written by Australian composer George Selwyn English and scored for an instrumental group of 10 players, combines with the poetic narration to create a vivid and moving account of a very Australian phenomenon. I hope you enjoy this today. This is called Death of a Wombat. You are listening to the Eartheart Radio Show on KSKQ, and thanks for being here.
It is night. The moon is there. The music begins in dry bushland, bristling from the rough skin of Australia. Not much thunder is heard in the inland of Australia. Around the coastline it is heard when water, hugging the earth, sends on its moon-drawn tides to crash against the land, beating against the thrust-up arms of rock, and the crushed-up foam of breakers races to the beaches like a horde of angry rats. But in the inland there is not much thunder. Sometimes there is the distant rumble of massed kangaroos in flight. Sometimes there is the fierce night dancing of forgotten men. Almost always there is silence. And there is silence now. And briefly the bland and stupefying moon eases the land of the torment of the drought. The days are dry and hard, and the animals suffer. But now, for a few hours, snakes are loosely coiled, wombats sleep in their holes, birds' beaks sag in the trees, and the flies are still. A road runs through this part of the country. Near it is the quiet preparation for another sort of thunder. A bottle lies here, brown, unbroken. Tomorrow it will bend 30 square inches of summer sunlight into 5. This will go on for some hours. Before noon, more than 1,200 square miles of bushland will be totally destroyed. But for the time, the flies sleep and the birds are cool, and the wombats are dozing heaps in their holes. Now the dawn, the beginning again, the Australian bush dawn, the quietest pageant of the earth. The sun, not yet seen, begins to sketch designs of rock and hill. A silver edging slowly marks out sacks and rims of cloud. The tips of trees begin the day's thinking while their roots still lie asleep. The first bird calls are over. The crest of a ridge grows sharp, and the side in darkness for a time grows darker, and the air becomes warmer with every minute. In a paddock, sheep have woken and are standing, moving slowly over their land as the foam of calm water might move over rocks and sandbars. Animals and birds are busy early. One of the busiest is the wombat. He has to be busy because he's so slow. For him, it takes the whole long day to get any sort of work done. There's food to get, and stones to dig, and a bit of the burrow to mend. There are leaves to find for his tunnels and things to visit. The wombat. The wombat comes from a pleasant family, fussy and gentle, slow-minded and polite. He's a close cousin of the koala bear who took to the trees a long time back to get away from it all. The wombat has a duck-billed tail and a duck-billed nose and a duck-billed mental life. He's ponderous plump of meat with a lurching walk. Everything likes a waddler. The wombat lurches on, slowly minding his own business. Bits of bark to find and things to visit. And everything likes a waddle and crump, and slowly home to dinner on time, and gentle doze in a well-made hole, and early thoughtless yawns, and waddle and crump again. If an animal's walk could suggest any words, they'd be these. I'm good morning to everything. Isn't it nice, familiar earth? I'm waddling on, and I like to crump. I'm ponderous plump of meat, and that suits me. I'm a waddler and slow, and I'm timid and stupid. I waddle on, and I waddle slow, and even waddling nowhere, I still like waddling on. It's good that the bush is kind to the wombat. The trundling snout is pushed along by the high, ungainly rump. And from there, from a wombat's snout view, the world perhaps seems strange. But nothing would want to hurt him. The wombat has no enemy. He gathers up a bit of bark, and a kangaroo jumps by. The kangaroo, grotesque, fierce, tender, graceful, with a whip-strong paws that fling the small and delicate face upwards through the air in splendid arcs. The great prongs of paws bend up and crash their downward thrust at the end of every curve. In the eyes of the tiny soaring head, there is the fixedness of distance. And behind the eyes, there lies an old, old knowledge of an antique land. The wombat looks at him leap and blinks his eyes. The wombat almost stumbles over a brown, round thing of glass. That's what comes of trying to think and letting the waddle and crump take care of itself. The big rump tumbles from side to side as he goes along to find more bark. Unconcerned, the friend of all the bush moves away from the prism of glass that will lead to the killing of almost every living thing in the bush before 12 o'clock. The sun pours onto the bottle near the road, 8:30. The curve of the glass bends the sun's light to a slim, searing line across the dry leaves underneath. The edges of the leaves begin to curl. On the way back to his hole, the wombat hears a muttering in the trees. He's waddling underneath Koala Cousin, who sits and nibbles a gum tip on a branch. Not many koalas left now, because there aren't many gum tips left, and only these can keep the koala alive. There are many small bears dead on the ground because drought has stifled the eucalypts. The wombat surely likes koalas, furry and round with flat painted noses, as inoffensive as himself. Half past 9. The jagged leaf edges blacken. Steadily the sunlight curves to its scythe edge 1 foot long. At the edge of his hole, the wombat lurches over a brown bush snake. The snake, knowing perhaps that the wombat's eyesight isn't very good, slithers himself away. Everything likes a waddler. 10 o'clock. The base of the bottle cracks off with a sharp, small explosion. A brief flicker of flame. The wombat trundles the sand away, using his nose as a spade. Then he lies on his side to dig and mends his burrow. He makes a much better job of it than the impatient rabbit. Half past 10. A puddle of fire spreads round the bottle. The glass shatters. The The Wombat doesn't keep any sort of lookout. He doesn't need to. Only an inexperienced dingo might attack him. The Wombat can hurt the dingo. He backs tail end first into a fight. And the dingo learns that teeth have no effect on thick, fat-encrusted hide. The Wombat waits till the moment comes to jerk himself around and sideways, cracking the dingo's skull against a log or a stump. A 11:15. A flashing of a wagtail in the air. The Wombat grunts and the wagtail carries off to his nest his small beak full of fur. But the Wombat doesn't mind, and he backs himself against his tunnel wall to press the sand down. Then he's off with Waddle and Crump to find a stone. The thunder has begun. A eucalypt explodes, and there is the first temple of flame. Flames spread through the undergrowth and send up blossoms of fine ash. On a distant farm, cocks crow at midday. The roaring startles rabbits and they scamper to their burrows. The flames lash out at neighboring trees like the tails of angry cats. A mushroom of muddy smoke covers the sky. The sun is a far-off scarlet disk. Scalding sap splinters bark casings. A short, round thing of glass has woken the terror of the ages. 11 o'clock, and it's one long bellow of fire. The snake that let the Wombat go makes hysterical whiplash patterns in the air and hisses out his life. The dingo, cunning and unconquerable through his cunning, turns to watch the screaming dance of the approaching fire. The tutorship of his line of sires and of his own experience crowds forward in his mind. The dingo is the knotting up of nature into a cord of hard, unfraying toughness. He is savage. He is resolution without concession. He is animal that masters. He is ruthlessness, courage, and majesty. The dingo stands. He pants easily now and waits. He saves his breath and his blood. He alone has a chance to live. The long, old knowledge of his line of sires moves into the strong spread paws and the heavy muscled jaws. He must race through the fire. Others will race away from it, turn from it. The Wombat, cut off from his burrows, will try to reach the only river left with water by the drought. The koala cannot escape. He will, of course, fight for life in the prison to which he has committed himself, the trees that grow the only food that he can live by. The kangaroo may have a better chance. His huge legs might be faster than the fire. Even if the Wombat turned, went through the fire, he still might be too slow, and the Wombat is very slow. But the dingo has a chance, and he lies down now as the fire approaches, flops on his chest and splays out his paws, and pants very easily to save his heart. He closes his eyes and listens to the flames. The marvelous fine mesh of muscle at the root of either ear manipulates the pointed shapes with delicate precision. In perhaps 3 minutes, his contest will come. There's a waddle and half a crump, and the Wombat stops and stares at a tree. There's a sound in his ears that he's heard before. Something is wrong. A dingo canters past and he has his mouth shut. And where have the rabbits gone? They're always flying in and around the bushes, but there aren't any now. The kangaroos seem to be bounding to a gathering somewhere behind him. The air has grown warmer and he has heard this noise before. Go back to the burrow. Crouching without a sound in the darkness, he has tunneled into the earth. His safety. But his burrows are there where the noise is. Noise. And the air getting hot. And the animals gone. The blaze has blackened 80 yards of land. In the next hour, it will burn out 20 miles. It isn't a fast fire yet, 20 miles in an hour. But that's too fast for many of the beings of the bush. For the wombat, half a mile in an hour. It's much too fast. The wombat pushes up his head. Smoke chokes his nostrils. With waddle and crump, he moves 10 paces on. Still there's smoke. His duck-billed nose is damp as the smoke strains out his tear ducts to protect his eyes. The river is half a mile away, and his instincts tell him, there. And with waddle and crump and lurching on, he begins to see it, twisted through the shimmer of smoke and tears. It's very much hotter now, but the lurching can't be faster, and the rump, so much higher than the trundling, weeping head, grows hot. If his fat weren't covered by hide, it would flash into flame. Nothing matters now but desperate crump and waddle, and the river still 90 yards away. The fire a half of a mile behind, the river 90 yards ahead. No odds for a wombat. He's not an animal to survive the bush when it thunders this way. Dozens of his koala cousins have died in the trees. They couldn't move, of course, but they clung on hard to the branches as the skin was burnt like fresh wet paint from their snouts, gripped on hard till their hearts were stopped with smoke. And they fell like small round torches, lost in the flame. At first, the kangaroo easily outpaced the fire. With a lope of 40 miles in an hour, he has kept the flames well behind him. The snakes and the koalas die, the dingoes wait their chance, the kangaroo leaps on and rests, and then takes up again his ancient choreography of limbs and head. The black smoke thickens in front of his face, and the thunder behind the wombat blots out the noise of the racing fires in the undergrowth. These will reach him first and destroy him. The line of flame spans over 13 miles, a holocaust that knows nothing of the wombat. The dingo moves himself to his feet with the shouting flame 200 yards away. He shakes himself briefly like a dog, and then tilts back his head with the action of a wolf, and he starts forward, moving easily to meet the fire. And as he moves, his body sinks lower, and the paws work harder on the ground, giving an athlete's rhythm, working harder. And then the long, lean head sits low, and the body gathers speed with the powerful galloping action of the paws. And seconds before he meets the flames, the dingo reaches cheetah speed and plunges through them, eyes shut, head thrust down between the flashing forward legs. Over the whole land, the sky is shut out. Life is whipped from trees in the space of seconds. An avalanche of burning sends the air into a frenzy. Now to feed the thunder comes a wind, and the 20 miles in an hour are turned to 70. The flames have trapped the flying kangaroos. They're tough and they leap with instinct, and before they die, they smell the sweet, strange scent of roasting flesh. Their mighty paws still strike the ground while their heads loll downward in death, jerking with each shudder of the body. Then the crash, sudden and complete. No threshing on the ground, with the tiny head slewed back, And the flames feed. Yards ahead of his snout now, just 7 yards. Lurch and crump have sunk to slovenly heave and slide. The flames have washed over him twice, and there are little scrub fires in his fur. The smoke has made him sob to catch his breath, and the heavy continual sobbing takes up most of his last strength. His eyes are blind with hot fluid, but his snout detects the river 5 yards on. And his last fragments of life tell him, there. The flames find him out again. He cries out in blind agony, high squealing that doesn't match the lumpy body. He slumps forward. The fire mounts over him. His small shrieks are drowned by the noise. And then, with a capricious change of wind, the fire sweeps back, and soon is half a mile away. The wombat is left in the smoking bush, undetectable black among black, still breathing, almost dead. A travesty of wombat. And yet there is a lurch. Waddling won't be possible again. There's no strength left for crump. And there's another lurch. He makes the miracle of reaching the river. Slowly, he slides underwater. A mile away, a dingo sleeps, badly burned but living on. Close around, and much further away, there is death in the forms of shattered trees, grotesquely twisted kangaroos, goannas and koalas, birds and rabbits and snakes. Wombat moves to a soft death now. His fat, charred rump bobs slowly above the water as he drowns. The last thing that he dimly knows is the gentle easing of his terrible burns. A gesture, perhaps, to the friend of all the bush, to the meekness of wattle and crump. When the sun sets, the thunder has gone. The moon comes up.
Broadcasting live from KSKQ Radio in Ashland, Oregon. Thanks for tuning in.
You are listening to the Eartheart Radio Show and KSKQ Radio. I am Derek Moody, wrapping up our 1959 award-winning recording, Death of a Wombat. You know, at the end of that recording, I was thinking, I am the Wombat. Or we are the Wombat, right? Is that the analogy? So we must try to escape the fire. The Wombat obviously did not escape the fire, so melancholy. Very profound. Thank you, Red, for suggesting that, and thank you for those who tuned in. And for those who are tuned in, I thank you. Oddly Toddly is listening today. Thanks, Oddly Toddly. Mama Bear's tuned in. Also, artist Ed Cavett is listening. Thank you. Brenda, thanks for tuning in Medford. Hey, Bob, thanks for tuning in from upstate New York with Lynn. And Jetson's listening with Sister Tracy. Chris Strau is tuned in, and my friend Occam. Yeah, man, Occam is the leader of a really cool social media group on Facebook, which is called the Quarantine Cookbook Collective or something like that. But basically, it's a group of folks like myself that share different recipes and photos of different foods we are eating. And I know it sounds kind of weird, but the group is really fun. You'd be surprised at some of the stuff people share. And man, great ideas for cooking in that thing. So yeah, I think it's the Quarantine Cookbook Collective on Facebook. I'm pretty sure anybody can join that. Also, Frank Marino, the legendary guitar player, is tuned in from Montreal, Canada. Frank, thanks for tuning in today. You can hear Frank Marino tonight on the Church of Rock radio show with myself and Sister Tracy as we interview Frank from Mahogany Rush. That's going to be a lot of fun, man. Next week on the Eartheart show, my guest will be Gary Floyd, who is very, very popular in the punk rock world. However, he kind of eclipsed the world of punk rock and made his way into the world of Hinduism. So we'll talk about punk rock and all the way to Kali Ma. Gary was one of the very first openly homosexual punk rock singers in Texas in the early 80s. So he's got a lot of things he's been through, and he's quite a very great guy that I like a lot. High Frequency. Gary Floyd from the band Sister Double Happiness and the Dicks be here next Sunday on the Eartheart radio show. Underwriting support for KSKQ comes from the Medford Food Co-op. Medford Food Co-op nurtures a vibrant, healthy community and abundant local food system with organic produce, sustainable meats, gourmet cheeses, and a wide selection of gluten-free, vegan, and vegetarian options. The cafe offers fresh meal solutions for busy schedules, including house-made hot soups, custom sandwiches, creative salads, and a variety of hot entrees. Medford Food Co-op and the cafe are open daily 7 to 9 at 945 South Riverside, just north of Barnett, and online at medfordfoodcoop.com. Thanks for being here at the Eartheart radio show. The late, great Little Richard, of course, left us recently. He was a guy that walked the walk. I mean, he went back and forth from rock and roll to spirituality his entire life. And I was able to locate a CD by Little Richard. This is called Pure Faith, and it's a song called Troubles of the World. It is the late, great, and, well, sometimes straight Little Richard right here at the Eartheart radio show in KSKQ.
To see
some women, helpers, elders, revolutionaries, and advocates of love. Today we honor and show love, respect, and gratitude.
Indeed, every single week I love to focus on a high-frequency person, basically a soul that's temporarily inhabiting a human body, and today is no exception. Today I dug back into the history of saints, and I was thinking, who is one of the oldest recorded saints? And I found a gentleman by the name of Saint Bogar, B-O-G-A-R, or B-H-O-G-A-R, or Boganathar. He's got a lot of names, but Bogar's the easiest. Boganathar was an Indian Siddhar who lived between 550 and 300 BC, described in several traditions and texts. He describes his native roots in his book Bogar 7000. Bogar went from India to China and taught about enlightenment. This is also mentioned in his book. Bogar taught meditation, alchemy, yantric designs, and Kriya Yoga. He is one of the earliest pilgrims to have traversed Sri Lanka. According to legends and temple scriptures, Bogar created the idol of Murugan at the hill temple in Palani by mixing 9 poisonous herbs using a unique procedure. There's a statue of Lord Murugan, and the milk that was poured on this statue is said to have been mixed with some of the herbs, thereby proving to be an effective cure for the diseases during the time. According to Siddha medicine documents, Bogar was the discoverer of an elixir of immortality. The Pharmacognosy is the best of his known treatises. His other works are on yoga and archery and a glossary of medicine. He lived for more than a yuga. If you have studied what the word yuga means, it's an area of time that's very long. A yuga is a long time. I can't even tell you how many thousands of years that he lived. He supposedly wandered the forests atop a tiger. He was riding tigers in India. At the top of Palani Hill, near the holy idol that Bogar crafted from the 9 poisonous substances, there is an opening in the earth. It's a hole in the ground, the mouth of a cave, which lies below. Bogar often lowered himself into the earth there, sat in the cave, accessing life's hidden secrets. He performed great austerities there. His faithful devotee, Polapani, heaved a stone slab over the entrance, sealing Bogar forever in the blackness of this earthen womb. For 13 generations, Pulapani's descendants have watched over that stone slab that to this day marks the gateway to that underground chamber. They say he's still alive meditating. Long ago, Bogar's little shrine was set atop that hollowed spot, and even today is still worshipped by the vigilant sons of the faithful Pulapani. They say that Bogar is seated quietly in meditation, even now, alone in the darkness, watching the slow passage of time. Interesting. And whether you believe it or not, it certainly is interesting, in my book anyway, right? My friends, thanks for being here at the Eartheart Radio Show. I've got a couple of quotes for you before I play a song. This is a quote by Rumi. I'm only using one hand, so it's tricky. Be like a tree and let the dead leaves drop. I like that poem, that quote by Rumi. Be like a tree and let the dead leaves drop. Another quote from Rumi, love is the bridge between you and everything. Love is the bridge between you and everything. How about one more? One more from Rumi. Your heart knows the way. Run in that direction. You gotta love it, man. I've got a song now I want to play for you. It's called the Saint Song. Yeah. How about a little humor? Check out the word to this one. You're at the Eartheart Radio Show on KSKQ.
Mary, Joseph, John the Baptist, James the son of Zebedee, and Peter, Andrew, Matthew, Philip, Thomas, John, Bartholomew, and Simon, Zealot, Thaddeus, and James the son of Alphaeus, and Dismas, Paul, and Barnabas, and Stephen, Luke, Ignatius, Sylvester, Mary, Magdalene, and Martha, Mark, and Timothy, and Linus, Clement, Rufus, Tecla, Zosimus, Felicity, and Anacletus, Polycarp, Hippolytus, Perpetua, and Justin, Martyr, Christopher, Clement of Alexandria. There's Cecilia, Dennis, Ponchi, and Genesius, and Agatha, and John and Paul, and Valentinus, Cyprian, and Barbara, and Gregory of Nyssa, Basil, Ambrose, Helen, Lazarus, Augustine, John, Chrysostom, Boniface, and Athanasius. There's Hilary, Sebastian, Philomena, Lawrence, Finian, and Benedict, Scholastica, and Patrick, Cosmas, Damian, and Adalbert, Anselm, Olaf, George, and Jos, and Nicholas, and Beckett, Francis, Dominic, and Bonaventure, Stanislaus, Aquinas, Albert, Catherine, and Bridget, Rita, Casimir, and John of God, Sir Thomas, Morgan, Fisher, Francis Xavier. There's Joan of Arc, Louis Montfort, Joseph of Cupertino, Ignatius of Loyola, Aloysius, and Juan Diego. There's Therese, Don Bosco, Maria Goretti, Elizabeth, and Seaton, and Martin, Vincent, Bernadette, Antonio, Andrew, Kim Dagon, John Galgani, John Vianney, Teresa Benedicta, Maximilian, Catherine Drexel, Padre Pio, John Amola. These are the only saints for lack of breath that I could mention, but there's many thousands more that are deserving your attention.
I love that. The Saint song right here at the Eartheart Radio Show and KSKQ Radio. Thanking our wonderful underwriters, KSKQ recognizes the nonprofit community support of the Klamath-Siskiyou Wildland Center. As a voice for wild nature, KS Wild's mission is focused on protecting public lands in the Klamath-Siskiyou region of Southwest Oregon and Northwest California. Community support for KS Wild helps ensure a legacy of wild rivers, ancient forests, and biodiversity. Learn more about KS Wild's wildlife and forest conservation programs and efforts to restore public lands at www.kswild.org.
Please let go of your fear. Positive news is here. Things aren't as bad as it seems, no matter what they say. News with an agenda is meant to instill fear. True news can instill hope.
And another quote for you here at the Eartheart Radio Show. This is an anonymous quote. I don't know who said this, but I like it. Sometimes we outgrow people who aren't growing. Sometimes we outgrow people who aren't growing. All right, it's time for positive news. I'm dedicating this segment today to my friend Akam. Positive news story number one. Great and exciting news for farms of the future. Yep, growing greens below the city is now a thing that's becoming big. Growing underground is a hydroponics farm below the streets of southwest London, which is powered by renewable energy. A disused air raid shelter is an unlikely source for a salad, but that's exactly where you'll find Growing Underground, which is the name of a hydroponics farm below the streets of southwest London. Founders Richard Ballard and Stephen Dring have been selling micro-herbs and baby greens to restaurants and markets since 2015. The farm uses hydroponic technology, which is growing plants in water systems rather than soil. Although the technology has been around for decades, it is the LED light technology that gets them to grow large amounts of crops in a relatively small urban area. The goal when they started was to reduce the carbon emissions typically involved in food supply and transport. The three biggest contributors to emissions are buildings and energy to power them, agriculture, and transport. Growing underground is based in redundant space and powered by renewable energy. It's more efficient than growing greens in a glass house. The subterranean setting combined with residual heat from the LED lamps keeps the tunnels at a consistent temperature that the plants thrive in. Meanwhile, the hydroponic system avoids the usual culprits for emissions in farming, such as releasing soil carbon or running diesel-powered equipment. The farms produce heads to restaurant food to restaurant kitchens and supermarkets, and Ballard thinks that the farms that grow produce closer to the point of consumption, as his does, will become a common part of our food systems. Let's find a way to feed the hungry, man. We shouldn't have anybody starving in 2020. Positive news story number 2. How ingenious, man. How compassionate. And talk about thinking outside the box. Belgian maintenance company with a fleet of mechanical cranes, the big construction equipment machines. They are using the cranes to reunite families with relatives living in high-rise care homes. That's right, high-rise care homes. Residents of nursing homes have been isolated from their families for weeks to protect them from COVID-19, and while those living on ground floors have been able to chat with loved ones, through windows, this hasn't been possible for those living up high. Offering a solution that is Tristan van den Bosch, manager of Group F Maintenance Company, which has given families in the city of Watermael a lift by raising them to the upper floors to see their relatives. Quote, "We are happy we're able to help people," Van den Bosch told ABC News. That's pretty cool, man. People being of service to other people. You gotta love it. Positive news number 3. More positive news from a compassionate human. An anonymous donor surprised nearly 2,000 Hawaiians with free groceries at Hawaii Foodland stores. Yep, some very kind, thoughtful person surprised many at Foodland, Sack and Save, and Foodland Farm stores in Hawaii by covering the full cost of their groceries. Cashiers notified nearly 2,000 shoppers at checkout of the generous donation. It's being called Operation Kapuna. The donor representatives worked with Foodland executives for weeks on the secret surprise for Kapuna shopping at the stores from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. And if you wonder what Kapuna means, it's an affectionate term for an older person in Hawaii. Somebody generally 60 years old, maybe or older. Kapuna. It's like our elders. We look up to the elders. Store directors and cashiers were only notified of the secret gift 30 minutes before the stores opened. And in a statement issued by Foodland chairman and chief executive officer Janai Wall, she said, "On behalf of all of Foodland's Kapuna customers, we want to send a big mahalo to our anonymous donor for this wonderfully kind, thoughtful, and generous gesture to support Hawaii's Kapuna during this challenging time." By the way, as a side note, dear Eartheart listeners, Foodland Supermarket Limited is the only locally owned grocery retailer with stores across the Hawaiian Islands. The rest are all corporate. They do operate 32 stores statewide in Hawaii, sending good vibrations to the mom and pop shops, man, trying to keep the doors open and the lights on. And I only hope this act serves to inspire others with the money to be of service to others. I really appreciate you listening, my friends, to the Eartheart Radio Show. I am Reverend Derek Moody. I made a list of 10 ways that you can help other people during the coronavirus outbreak. The first one is you could join a mutual aid group by donating and dropping off crucial supplies, making time for a friendly phone call instead of letting people suffer alone. There are folks who are isolating because of age, or they have no family, or they have disabilities. Maybe reach out, man. Buy a voucher from a struggling local business. Everyone's ordering online. Let's try to support and be of service to our local mom and pop shops, the local butchers, grocers, bakeries. See if you can order from them online or over the phone. We need to keep the local mom and pop shops alive. Support a food bank. Food banks are likely more and more in need of volunteers and supplies because it's of the time we're living in. So you can donate, you can serve, set up, tear down. You can donate food, paper plates. You could also write a letter to a care home resident. Yeah, man, people lacking visitors would probably love a letter from somebody that cares. Call your local, nursing home or care facility to see if you can get an address of somebody that would like some positive mail. Number 5, you can organize an online event for people to share and participate in, like meditation, a music event, instructional videos. If Harley Davidsons are your thing, you could do a Harley instructional. You could ward off cabin fever by thinking outside that quarantine box, my friends. How about some online yoga together? How about number 6, sharing seeds to boost local resilience? That's right. Growing food is an empowering way to try to improve food security. Get some gardens growing. Get some community gardens going. Volunteer your teaching skills. If you have teaching experience, consider offering your knowledge and skills to parents who are homeschooling. Arts and crafts, science, experiments, spirituality, reading, meditation. Teachers are needed. Number 8, support charities. Many charities are stepping up their vital work and they could use cash. Literally, let's just be blunt. Number 9, reach out to those struggling with mental health issues. Do you know somebody struggling? Send an email or a text or a phone call. Check up on them more often. There's a lot of folks out there that are really sad right now, man. Number 10, be of service to the homeless. The homeless folks face a particular risk of COVID. They have poorer health in general, including pre-existing conditions, which does weaken immune systems. So you can donate high-quality antibacterial hand sanitizers, food, clothing, money, gift cards. How about a smile? How about just looking someone in the eye? I read a story about the fact that most people that look at a homeless person, they immediately turn their eyes away. Imagine the mental state of that person that never gets someone to actually look them in the eye. They always turn away immediately. So if you can't give anything else, look somebody in the eye and smile and let them know you support them as a human being. This is a band called Opera to Relax. And the song is called Upon the Temple Bell at the Eartheart Radio Show in KSKQ.
Upon the temple bell, asleep,
The butterfly.
Upon the temple bell.
You are listening to the Eartheart Radio Show on KSKQ. Wrapping up another show number 37. I'll be back next Sunday for show number 38 with my guest, Gary Floyd. And I'd like to leave you with one final quote from Rumi. And the quote is this: "Why do you stay in prison when the doors are so wide open?" Thanks for listening, my friends. Sending love to everyone accepting the love. And the ones that aren't accepting it, I'm sending even more love.
You've been listening to Eartheart Radio with your host, Shankara Das. Eartheart Radio is produced by Shankara Das in association with Sister Tracy and Krishna Consciousness. Please tune in every Sunday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for more Eartheart Radio.